want to say that I brought all this information and all these reflections about these topics on Jordan Peterson. Now, you probably know who Jordan Peterson is, but if you do not know, bear with me, I'll let you know. He's an author, he's a Canadian author, psychologist, and media commentator, and he's really famous, especially he's gone very viral during last years for his content on media, social media, and his influence, right, all across the world. I find everything that he says very interesting and very intelligent, and that is why I divided, I think this video will be more or less like 5-6 points, and even though I've made myself like a little guidance so that I follow and I don't get lost, and I really hope that it makes you think and reflect on certain topics. The first one is understanding responsibility. It is very common as human beings that we just believe that we are led by an invisible force, that where we are right now in life, it was the way God wanted. It was destiny, it was life. It was the really unfortunate or very fortunate circumstances in life, but I and you had nothing to do with it whatsoever. It was life. Now, most of us hold on to that thought for years, and we just think that we're just in the situation we are because we are lucky or unlucky, but we never tend to realize that we should actually take responsibility, because wherever you are, in a 90% probably, you're there because every single decision you've taken. Decision comes from an action. Every time you decide something, you take an action. And that action, even though you don't see it maybe in the same moment, that action is going to lead you somewhere. Example, if you decided to go to university, you took so many little steps, decisions, and turned into actions. And that's why you went to university, that's why you studied the degree that you wanted or not to study, and that's why probably now you graduated and now you're able to do certain jobs that if you had not taken those actions and those decisions, you will not be able to perform. So bear responsibility for where you are and for everything and your actions, and realizing that you are actually responsible for what happens in your life. If you are stuck in a very dark place, which is acceptable and understandable, and I think we have all been there, if we're not now, it's also your responsibility not to think and to blame yourself because you're there, but it is your responsibility, all of it, to take yourself up, to lift yourself up and say, okay, I am in this situation, I'm very unhappy, but I'm going to take responsibility because my body and wherever I go or do, that's just my responsibility, and whatever I decide to do from now on is going to put me in a place that I will feel happier. And you know that if you do certain things, you will achieve certain things and you will feel in a different way. And it's always this feeling of laziness, being hopeless. All this is what really, I feel like, triggers the mind into thinking I just can't do it because you're in this dark place and you can't see the other side. You know that if you take those actions and those steps, you will get there, but the thoughts of knowing that you have to struggle and you have to put so much effort and so much consistency into something that you don't feel like living. So if it's hard already for you to wake up and do simple things like brushing your teeth, let alone trying to get yourself out of there. But at the same time, you have to say, okay, if I'm choosing to stay in this dark place, I am taking responsibility. I am not going to play the victim role because I am deciding to stay in here. I could go outside. I can allow myself to lock myself a week, 2 or 3, but I have the power to stand out and get back to whatever I need to do, whatever feels good for me. So that's something that I am trying, and I am much better than before, taking responsibility for my actions, for how I feel, because something will happen to you, whether it's good or bad, but it's not so much, and it's this typical quote, it's not so much what happens to you, but how you react to it. Obviously, something really horrible can happen to you, and you're gonna feel horrible. Fair enough, that's so normal. But now, if you keep yourself in that and within that dark circle of feeling bad, you're choosing to feel that. Because I can give you an example. Someone insults me, right? Someone in the internet says something really rude to me that really hurts me and makes me feel horrible about myself, because maybe they comment on an insecurity that I already have. So obviously it makes sense that maybe for 10 minutes or a day or 2, 3, I'm going to be really sad and wanting to lock myself and not see anyone in the world. Okay, fair enough. Now after those 3 days, if I am still doing that, the problem is not so much what happened, but how I'm choosing to react to it. Of course you're going to feel bad, you're human, but you have to say, I can't give those words, that person, that force, the power to rule my life. So the problem is how we decide to rule our lives with things that happen to us. And I know that there's so many things that, like losing a family member, you will need months and months and months, it may be years, but as everyone says, life goes on. And same as you're still very much likely going to that job because you have to, you need the money, and you're going every day to that job that you maybe like or not, but you feel emotionally bad and you still go because bills need to be paid. Why cannot you do that with yourself, with your spirit? Why can you not make yourself feel better? You totally can, same as you go to that job. It's just a matter of mindset. When you take your own decisions, you don't feel like you have to do anything because there's not a consequence. There is not a consequence. If you miss your job a day, there will be a consequence. Or if you miss 3 or 4, maybe you'll be fired. Maybe your boss won't trust you as much. But when you're deciding to do so by yourself, nothing happens. Okay, yes, guilt, you tell yourself horrible things, but there's not a real consequence. You don't meet those friends even though you knew it will make you feel happy. There's no consequence at all, because what is the consequence? You just stay in bed and that's it, another day goes by. But the consequence in this case is very, very, very long term. It's very long term, and it's how those things can destroy your soul, can destroy who you are, how you feel, how you think. Because what you are is what you create. And if what you're doing every day is making you miserable and is just turning around a circle of being miserable, you're not going to get out of that. And you need to take responsibility for this. I've just realized that the only idea that I've really taken from Jordan Peterson is the fact that we need to take responsibility for how we feel, no? And we need to understand it. But then I realized that I said so many things that I don't think they came from him. I don't think they came from him. They came from me. But yeah, I'll just try to see if... So basically these ideas have come from me. I expected to read a lot from what he said, but I felt inspired and I just drifted around my own thoughts. I just want to read something more based on what he says about understanding responsibility. And he says, according to him, right, Jordan, responsibility is not merely a burden or something to avoid, but rather a fundamental aspect of leading a meaningful and purposeful life. Taking responsibility means acknowledging the power we have over our choices and actions and how we shape our lives. I think this is kind of what I discussed, but in very short words. I think without realizing, because I hadn't looked at this properly, I just went on to my personal opinion, but it's linked to what he said. And another part that I wanted to talk about that he says is embracing chaos and order. Okay, and this is one of his central ideas as well, that okay, there needs to be chaos and order, because life, there needs to be a little bit out of everything, right? And he emphasizes the significance of finding a balance, okay? Now, this is linked with the first one, because taking responsibility, okay, give us a chance and allows us to bring order to our chaos by confronting those challenges. So obviously, when we are taking responsibility for things that happen in our lives, whether they're good or bad, we're embracing the chaos, because same as we understand what happened to us and how we can get out, or how we might feel better, we are understanding that chaos and we're taking action. And as he says, when you take responsibility, that allows you to also bring order into that chaos, because you're thinking clearly, or kind of clearly, and you're saying the decisions that you can take. It might not be the full solution, but it will help, right? So once you take responsibility, you're able to put the order that you need. So they're both linked in a way. And the third one I'm going to discuss with him is also linked. It is okay, understanding responsibility. We talked about that. Second was embracing chaos and order. We talked about that, alright? Okay, we take responsibility, understand it, then we see what happened or what didn't. We can bring order to that chaos that we have in our head, in our lives. Now what happens? When we are able to do this, we feel and we live a meaningful life. We feel like our life has a purpose. And he kind of discusses and says that maybe, and I think that as well, the reason why people feel lost in life and feel like they don't have a purpose, life is falling apart from them, they don't feel excited about anything, they don't feel excited about waking up, it's because they don't have a purpose. I have personally felt like this, even though I'm quite young, and I mean it in a very extreme way. When I analyzed it, I knew what it was. It was because I had nothing that made me excited, leading towards something related to me. Yeah, okay, I work out, I want to be the best version I can of myself, but I didn't have a project, like a life project of like, okay, I have a YouTube channel and I want to have this number of subscribers, I want to help people. I didn't know what my purpose was or what I wanted it to be, and waking up not feeling connected with what you're doing and not feeling like you have a purpose definitely can hurt you and can lead you to a very dark place, because you don't feel like you're contributing to society. And it's really important to feel like you're contributing to society and you're just being as helpful as you wish. Even though it might be just something for yourself, it doesn't really matter. But you're doing something that makes you feel fulfilled every day. It makes you feel like, I'm doing what I want with my life. And I think I'm just gonna have some iced coffee, which all the ice has melted. And I think it's gonna be super watery, which I don't really like. But I was really strangely, I felt very inspired. And well, as you probably know, English is not my first language, it is Spanish, so I thought, oh my gosh, I'm feeling inspired, which is not common, and I'm talking properly. I think I'm talking with like educated words that are not as easy to use as really basic ones, so I just didn't want to drink the coffee. So I think I'm going to leave it here. Have a drink of your choice. I always say this and I'll say it again.